my fellow car modelers, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Luka's Builds, which this was a build, and now it's unbuilt, but it was built, so it's a build technically. I've had it as a completed model. It even went into competition and everything. I have retrieved everything I could find of this. There's a couple of pieces missing, but I got most of it, just enough to show you guys. And just a little talk about this model. It's just been talked about in a couple of past videos, and then we found it in that junk box. And I just want to go over it because this model was very, very important to me. It was like, it was just a very passionate build. I got very much into this particular Camaro really hardcore when I discovered who Bill Jenkins was. I was at my first model show, and I discovered that issue of Hot Rod magazine from July of 1970. And I liked Camaros, of course, and I was really getting into drag racing, but I didn't know a lot about the old days. I didn't really, get so into it so much back then. There was this vendor there. He had old Hot Rod magazines because I wanted to learn about the history of drag racing. So I pulled that magazine out, and the guy said that there was a model kit of this particular car, and he said he offered the magazine to the guy when he bought the kit, and the guy didn't want the magazine. So I bought it off of him for $1 or something like that. The sound Grumpy's Toy just rang to me. The whole idea of it was a model kit. And it was called Grumpy's Toy. And there was this guy who called his cars toys. I thought that was really cool. This was just a neat looking shot. I read the article on Bill Jenkins, and I just got fascinated with Bill Jenkins and with this particular car. And I set out to build it. I wanted to build it so bad, but there were no 70 Camaro kits available. And around 1989, I believe it was, AMT came out with a reissue of a 70 and a half Camaro, but it was of the RS nose. And at that time I didn't know a lot about the differences. That I saw that the blinkers were off, and it's like, well, that's not correct for doing this car. I wanted to do the car as it was in that magazine. So this is what I did, was this car, and it's pretty much that kit out of the box with a lot of added parts from other parts box and kits and stuff like that. And I'll just start going over it, and then I'll go over those heavy modifications I did to try to give the look of that standard nose front end that Bill Jenkins had on there, and why I am really excited about this new kit put out by Round 2 of the full bumper nose now of the 70 Camaro, that I can finally really do this model correctly. Because you will see, I didn't really know what the heck I was doing a lot, but it had a big E for effort, I think, in what I created back then with what skills I had. And, I got it to look what I thought was like the car at the time. I don't know if I'm going to put it together, if I'm going to use parts for my new build. I haven't decided yet. It will be interesting to have the two cars when the other one is done, but I don't know. This thing, like I said, there's a few pieces missing, and there's some really bad broken stuff in here that, I could probably patch this thing together, but it'll be, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to play with it. Pretty much using the kit right out of the box. I cut the rear back seat out and used sheet plastic here. You can kind of see where I added sheet plastic, and had it where it didn't have a let's get these out of the way, where it didn't have a back seat. And the dashboard's pretty well stock. I just kind of painted the gauges in there, just a stick shift out of the junk mods. I wasn't really too intense with the interior on this, but I made this roll cage. It's now broken, but I did see that it had that 3. I didn't quite do it right. I just did it from what I read. The little roll bar. That's kind of sort of what it was like. But I knew that this kit didn't really have, in the suspension area, it wasn't really too fantastical. It was basic, but I took out of the box, out of a parts box, I mean, some lower control arms that looked kind of Chevrolet, and upper control arms from some kit. I think that came from the Monogram 69 Camaro, and kind of made a whole front suspension out of just parts out of the parts box, just to give it a little bit better looking suspension. And there's those Krager SS's. I even put a valve stem in them. But boy, front skinny Krager SSs are so hard to find in model form. I still not sure what I'm going to do about that. I'm really skinny ones I really would like to have. Did some moderate detail on that engine. There's some linkage hanging off over there, but yeah, you can see where I linkaged it up the best I could for the skills that I had. And I followed what pictures I had, and I just tried to make this thing as close to what Bill had. Geez, I still have the heater box on there. That quite isn't correct. And take a look at that. The dual fuel pumps, just like in the Hot Rod Magazine article. I just tried to follow as much of that as I could. And that's pretty much... Oh, look at this. I think I got carpeting in there. That was... I can't remember what aftermarket company, but that was like a paper that you could trim up. It's kind of... I don't know if you can tell there, but it's got kind of a fuzziness to it. And then that was the carpet I tried to use. I can't remember what company it was. It might have been... I can't remember. Detail Master, maybe? I don't know. I don't know who sold sheets of that stuff. I didn't know flocking at the time. I saw that stuff. I wanted to give it a try. And even the back panel here is that it's like a paper. You can see it. It's like a paper. Hard paper. That's pretty much the chassis, interior, and engine. Not much. It's a parts box engine. Don't even know where it came from. It might be from the kit. I don't think so. But there's just a mishmash of parts. Those headers I will be rating. I'm going to have to. I love those headers, and they're hard to come by now. The rear end doesn't look like it's the kit rear end, although it might be. It might be. It might be all the kit and the leaf springs. Nah. I venture to say that's parts box stuff. I don't know. But there's those Johan slicks, how they're the Firestone 500s on one side, the Goodyears on that. And that's exactly the tire that was on the car on the cover of that magazine article. And there's your Lakewood traction bars. I remember I first painted those white because I just couldn't tell what the color. They looked a little odd, but the color was so flushed out because it's an old photograph on the cover that I first did them white, and I took it to a model meeting, and somebody said Lakewood traction bars are yellow, and so I took them off and made them yellow. Yeah, they probably were yellow. I didn't know much. I was a dumb kid. What can I say? So that's it with this part of the car. Let's get into the body, because this is the real interesting part. First of all, with the hood, it's all smashed apart, but you can see I did that grumple up the way it is on that car in the first article. It actually was in a little bit better shape when I saw it, if you saw in that last video, and I stepped on this while we were in the middle of filming that one, and I knocked this side off. But you can still see how it is just scrap or sheets of plastic. That terrible green putty I was using, and there we go. Did me a grump lump. That front opened air grump lump. What it actually looks like is a backwards grump lump with this front cutout with that weird pie shape or crescent shape. Something Bill was playing with. I don't even think it stayed on the car in time by the time he got to the first races with this car. And this was actually the second one he built of a 70 Camaro. The first one, which was Grumpy's Toy 7, was a 70 Camaro, and the best that I can find of it, and nobody really knows much about that car, it really wasn't a drag car. It was more of just a show car that went around with the Jenkins tune-up clinic that he did with Dave Strickler. They traveled around, had the cars, and he would bust that car out, and it was pretty much really just a stock SS Camaro. And I had an old friend of mine years ago who came from York, Pennsylvania, that told me back in the day, one day he's at the stop sign, he hears this engine rumbling, and he looks over to the side of this intersection, and there's old Bill Jenkins, and he's driving a white 70 Camaro with Grumpy's Toy on it on the street. So probably was just his street car, but that was the first 70.5 Camaro he built. And then they built this one, but they got a late start that year. There was a delay in the design of the car, that it didn't come out till mid-year. So they got this late start. So that's pretty much it with the hood. I put some NASCAR from a NASCAR kit, some hood pins on there. And the body. Well, we talked about this. I showed this. I wanted to have an opening trunk. I don't know why. There wasn't a lot of trunk detail, as you can see. And there's even some, I think that was a fuel filler neck that went missing. All I had was a battery in there, nothing much. But I just felt like opening up the trunk, but it wasn't really that great. I didn't have the D80 3-piece spoiler. There was nothing available. So, the parts box, there was a spoiler very similar to that, but a little smaller. That's why this looks a little small. That came out of the Monza kits. And so I took that and I just kind of puttied up here to make it look like the Camaro spoiler. But that's actually out of the Monza kit. That's the spoiler from that. You can kind of see I cut it and didn't really do much with it. But there's my hinges, and you can kind of get an idea. It's kind of a way to do hinges. You basically have some tubing there. I'll do a little tutorial some other time on that, but that's wire just bent, and maybe you guys can just see that's how you can do some hinges. It's kind of rough looking. You could make them look a little better, but this will even slide off. But I'm having a tough time with it, but you just get an idea. There's your hinge system for opening up trunks. Now, here we go. This is the fun part. This was the part I really spent a lot of time on. And I found the nose. And you can see that this is the Enduro RS split bumper nose that I just kept it. I didn't do anything with it, so that's really not correct. You still have that protruding nose. But let's take this resin one where you see there's the standard nose. Woo! Nothing work out for me. Let's keep this together. Let's get that. There's the standard nose. And you see how that Enduro bumper pops out a lot farther. You can see how much farther that nose sticks out from the standard nose. And how smaller the grill opening is on those RS noses compared to your standard nose. So I wanted to get it to look as much like the standard nose Camaro as I could. So you can see where I sanded and filled and sanded and filled, and starting to show through the paint now, because I just got rid of that blanker that was there and didn't really do much with this part of the nose, except I cut down here. I cut out an area for the blinker, and these blinkers again were rated from that blue Monza that was my very first model. Those were blinkers from the Monza kit, because the Monza used a lot of parts from, Chevy just took off the shelves that was also used, left over from the Camaro. So these blinkers were actually old 70 through 73 Camaro blinkers that they ended up putting on the Monzas. So, boom, I had them. So, what the heck? I used what I could, and then I just used the split bumper. I didn't need to use the full bumper because that's what the car that I was depicting had, a standard nose with a split bumper on it. But not altogether correct, but I got the look I was going for. Nowadays I know a lot more about Camaros, and that just looks funky to me now. But you can also see those old Camaro, look at the headlight area is just very round, where that newer kit you can see, because this was styled off of the newer kits that came out in 2000, and now they did that full bumper with it. You can see how much more accurate the headlights are. So this new kit that's out is just going to be so much better. That's pretty much it. That is my Grumpy's Toy, the Fred Katie decals. This thing is super yellowed. It's just seen its day. But the cool thing about it, I was really proud of it. I was really happy with it. I took it to shows. It got looks, never won an award, and definitely will never win an award now. It never won an award, but, it was my early days of trying to compete and just having fun. I wasn't really concerned about that. And I didn't ever get to go to the Salt Lake show, but I want to say the 1990 Salt Lake show, I had my friend take this up there with him because he was rolling, and it got put on the table and nothing happened. Whatever. I didn't think I'd do anything in Salt Lake with this. It's not really a Salt Lake show quality model, even when it was in its prime, when it was all built. But there weren't a lot of people building Grumpy's Toys models, so it got popular a little after this. Remember, there were a lot of people that didn't really even know about him back in the late 80s. You know, there's all of a sudden was a resurgence of him, of anything vintage drag racing. But yeah, that is the start of my fascination with this car, building this model. It was a couple years I was trying to figure out how to do it, and I was real happy when that 70 Camaro kit, I was like, cool, I can do my Grumpy's toy. And now I have always wanted to do this model again and do it really well, much more correct. I know a lot more about the car, I know a lot more about Camaros, and I know a lot more about model building some 31 years later. So there it is. Now you've seen it. Maybe we'll try to put this thing together and give it the old look. Let's see what these tires look in there. Get this thing, I don't know, and maybe I'll put it back together. I don't know. But it would be kind of cool to get that other one built and do a, this is how it was then, and then how I'd build it now. But yeah, this was an important model to me, an important subject matter, and I am really excited to get on it again and give it another shot. So let me know what you think in the comments. I'd like to hear from you, and I just want to thank you guys for all your support. I want to give a big shout out to my producers. Thank you guys. If you want to be a producer, get onto my Patreon, join up, and we definitely do appreciate all that. It's helping us grow the channel. Go to my Teespring store, get shirts and mugs and shirts and things and stuffs that we're selling there. Everything helps support this channel, and it's helping us get it growing and getting us to do better quality, except for the host. Maybe we need to hire somebody. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So I want to thank you guys for watching. That's another Luka's Builds. Too bad that the thing is kind of unbuilt. Steering wheel. Cool. This was a build, so it's a Luka's Builds, and I'm really glad to share this with you guys. It was kind of a neat little trip down memory lane. I haven't looked at this model in a long time. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. So you guys got to remember, go build model cars, because they're fun. Isn't it fun? I had fun. It's a blast.